Hey guys, welcome to another huge episode of Triggered. There's been a ton of news over the last few days. A lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Uh, we're going to start with my father's historic address to the nation last night, laying out exactly what we've accomplished in just 11 months. The biggest tax cuts in American history taking effect, our military getting 1,776 warrior dividends before Christmas, incredible new inflation numbers, and so much more. There's also some personal news that we may get into, but I'll show that to you in a little bit. And if the regime media wasn't already melting down, imagine imagine for 1 second if they renamed the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center. That may actually be happening. Apparently, there was a board of directors votes. Apparently, that seems to be a thing. So that's going to make some serious heads explode. Now, yesterday, there was a bunch of baseless buzz about some sort of, I don't know, ground invasion of Venezuela. The media just ran with it blindly. But instead, my father delivered a speech laying out his record year of his second term. I mean, the ultimate Trump rope-a-dope. They think he's going to do a State of the Union type address to the nation announcing yet another endless ground war. And instead, he just talks about the successes that they refuse to talk about. We'll get into all of the highlights. Plus, we'll do a deep dive into just how destructive DEI really is, the damage that it's done with some shocking new data. This is generational destruction type stuff, and you have to hear it all. So, guys, make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing so you never miss one of these major episodes. Remember, if you do miss the show here on Rumble, go over to Apple, Spotify podcasts, etc., where you can catch every single episode. If your friends get their podcast that way, share it with them, send it that way. You know the drill. You guys are the front lines of truth. Let's get it out there. For all of the top headlines that we cover on the show, make sure to download my news app, MXM News, like minute by minute, Mike X-Ray Mike, where you can get the mainstream news without the mainstream bias. And of course, don't forget about our brave sponsors for having the guts to support this program. And also, guys, don't forget about the Birch Gold Group, where you can diversify your savings and protect your future. The Trump administration is moving fast to right all of the left's wrongs. But with all the damage we've seen the Democrats do, it's always smart to be prepared. And that's why thousands of Americans are buying gold now from the Birch Gold Group. Here are the facts. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 30%. And Birch Gold makes it extremely easy to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Or you can even buy some gold to store in your home safe. Just text my name, Don Jr., DONJR, to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. It's about learning more and educating yourself. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of protecting your savings today. Again, text my name, Don Jr., DONJR, to the number 989898. So if you follow politics, you know everyone's got an opinion. But on Polymarket, you actually get real odds on what's likely to happen. Polymarket is a prediction market where people trade on real events back and forth, elections, debates, policy moves, just about everything. There's a poly market for just about everything. And it doesn't stop at politics, guys. There are markets on the economy, tech, sports, pop culture, and much more. It's all live, it's transparent, and it gives you real-time indicators on what people think is going to happen, okay? It's a big deal. I dealt with this in politics where people are doing polling every day, and they ask a question 97 times till they get the answer of whoever's paying them for the answer that they want, rather than actually trying to get to the truth. So give it a look at polymarket.com. see what's actually happening. I think you'll be really impressed with the accuracy. And now let's get into all of the top headlines. I have to start probably with my father's address to the nation from the White House, a really big one. And look, this is exactly what the American people needed to hear going into Christmas season. He laid it out plain and simple. And I want you to listen to his exact words right here.
I was elected in a landslide, winning the popular vote and all 7 swing states and everything else, with a mandate to take on a sick and corrupt system that really just took the wealth from people and crushed the dreams of the American people. For the last 4 years, the United States was ruled by politicians who fought only for insiders, illegal aliens, career criminals, corporate lobbyists, prisoners, terrorists, and above all, foreign nations, which took advantage of us at levels never seen before. They flooded your cities and towns with illegal aliens. They decimated your hard-earned savings. They indoctrinated your children with hate for America. They just released a level of violent felons that we had never seen to prey on innocent. They caused war. They caused mayhem. They caused a horrible situation all over the globe. But now you have a president who fights for the law-abiding, hardworking people of our country, the ones who make this nation run, who make this nation work. And after just 1 year, we have achieved more than anyone could have imagined.
Think about that for a second. 11 months ago, we inherited an absolute disaster from Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats. We inherited the worst border crisis in American history. Open borders, 25 million people flooding into our country. We wonder why rents were going up and costs of everything were going up, etc. Many of these people coming in from prisons and mental institutions from countries all over the world, not exactly sending us their finest. We inherited crushing inflation that Biden and Kamala told us was transitory. Remember that one? Transitory. It was devastating American families, businesses, everyone. We inherited a military that was focused on pronouns instead of on readiness. They were focused on DEI instead of defeating our enemies, all those things that matter. DEI in the military, it's wonderful. We inherited a Justice Department that was weaponized against political opponents instead of going after actual criminals. And in 11 months, my father turned it around. Okay. Here's CNN. Okay. If you heard it on CNN and even they're giving Trump credit, that has to mean something because, they're not exactly known for spewing information favorable to Trump. Okay. But here's CNN literally having to admit just how bad Democrats' approval record really is.
In the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
And that's not all, guys. The inflation numbers that came in this morning, they shattered expectations. But again, don't take my word for it.
The number of the morning, the CPI, maybe coming in a little bit better than expected. 2.7%, a little light here. I'm just reading the headlines here. Year over year, 2.7. Ex-food and energy core, 2.6. So 0.4 off. That is a very good number here. And it really, I have not looked at the internals. I'll look at them now, but it suggests that the internals are good as well. Let's see, year over year over the last 12 months. There is no month to month, but some guys will be able to calculate. Seasonally adjusted index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% over the 2 months. So correct my math here, Michael Santoli, but 0.2 divided by 2 is 0.1.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a very, very low monthly rate here. The index for shelter increased, so you did get a really nice decline in shelter, which was 0.2. And so that was 0.1 per month.
And guys, the numbers are so good. CNN's economist can't even spin the news other than to say it's better than anyone expected. Now, of course, under Joe Biden, when you were running essentially double-digit inflation for 4 years, that compounds, and so the 10% gets added on another 10% the year after, so it just keeps growing and growing. We do still have to get costs down. The pain of going up is in control. The costs that went up under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrat regime, we still have to get those down. But make no mistake, inflation now is under control. We got to get those costs back down. And that's not something they can blame on Trump, although they're desperately trying.
It was a better number than anyone was expecting. Look, inflation's been very high. It's stayed high. It has not been coming down. But, you know, people were expecting it to be above 3%. It was well below 3%. I mean, I think the president will take this as good news. The investors will think that interest rates will get cut more. So, you know, it was a positive news. There's no other way to spin it.
Absolutely.
Let me give you some more of the numbers from last night's address. For 7 straight months, zero illegal aliens have been allowed to cross into our country from the southern border. Zero. Okay. The fake news said that that was impossible. They said it couldn't be done, that we need Congress to act. You don't need Congress when you have a president who actually cares about enforcing the law. More than 2.5 million illegal aliens have left this country since January, less than a year. Over 600,000 deported. Another 1.9 million who self-deported because they know this administration means business and they're not just giving them the freebie incentives to stay anymore. Gas prices are down. We declared a national energy emergency. New electrical plants coming online next year that will reduce electricity costs for American families even further. And here's the big one, guys. The warrior dividend. Watch and see for yourself.
1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call warrior dividend before Christmas, a warrior dividend in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. We are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military, and I say congratulations to everybody.
How awesome is that, guys? $1,776 for every American service member before Christmas. My father knows our history. He honors our military, and he puts America first. And where is this money coming from, folks? Where do you think it's coming from? Tariffs. It's coming from the tariffs that every so-called expert said would destroy the U.S. economy. The tariffs that take fake news, that the fake news said would be a total disaster. Those tariffs are bringing in hundreds of billions, with a B, hundreds of billions of dollars. And that money is going right back into the pockets of the American people and the men and women who serve this nation so valiantly. Meanwhile, what did Democrats do for our military? They focused on drag queen story hours on military bases. You know, you got to have that. Must be a big seller. They focused on kicking out service members who wouldn't take experimental vaccines. They focused on white rage, whatever that was, instead of combat readiness. My father is giving them warrior dividends. That's the difference. That's the difference between America first and America last. And of course, guys, the regime media couldn't handle it. CNN called it a rally speech. MSDNC or MSNBC, whatever they are, it's basically one and the same, said he was shouting. The Washington Post called it political. Huh, interesting. So when they were asking plumbers to pay off student loans for the elite, highly educated people that couldn't pay back their loans, shockingly, after getting a gender studies doctorate, that wasn't political. Taking care of our military members who've been neglected for so long and far too long, that's political? Interesting. I've got news for you. When the president tells the truth about what his administration has accomplished, when he fights back against the lies of the media and the radical left, that's not being political, folks. That's called being a leader. That's called leadership. Something we haven't had in this country for 4 years under Biden. But we did have one other rather large announcement from the White House. Just happened to be the White House Christmas party, where my father broke it to the world that I, over the weekend, proposed to the love of my life.
Not often that I'm at a loss for words, because we usually do the ranting and raving really well, but this is a little different. But I just want to wish all of you guys an incredible holiday season, a Merry Christmas, a very Happy New Year, and to thank Bettina for that one word, yes. It's always, when you go down there and it's like you're going to go and you're trying to ask and you're not sure what the answer is going to be, it's always a little bit rough. But she said yes, so that's a big win for the end of the year. Would you like to say something, Bettina?
Wow, what a privilege it is to be here in the White House, Mr. President. Thank you so much for hosting this incredible party. And to our First Lady, these decorations, am I right? Are they unbelievable? This has really been the most unforgettable weekend of my life, and I get to marry the love of my life, and I feel just like the luckiest girl in the world. So thank you, and thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, thank you.
Kate, you want to come in here? I'm filming from home today, so I can get away with this a little bit easier. Not in studio. For another guest cameo appearance, and we put her on the spot. We put her on the spot the other day. Made her speak, because if she didn't do a good job, that could have been it. And she did a great job. So I got engaged to Bettina, and thankfully she said yes, which is very nice. I was a little nervous. You never know. Listen, you just don't count your chickens before they're hatched, okay? So that was the other big news. And he announced that from the White House Christmas party, which was pretty cool. And that's it.
All right, goodbye, everyone. I love you.
So, normally there's a lot of hate on here, so we got to show a little bit of love every once in a while. Thank you, babe. Again, doing it from home today, so I figured I had to throw that one in there since everyone else is already talking about it. It's all over Twitter. I figured, got to do a little bit of that myself. But speaking of promises made and promises kept, let's talk about the one big, beautiful bill, the BBB. This is perhaps the most consequential piece of legislation in American history. And the fake news barely covers it because they don't want you to know what's in it. Of course they don't. Okay? Here's what working families are going to start seeing this spring. No tax on tips. If you work in a restaurant, if you're a bartender, if you're in hospitality and service industries, your tips are tax-free. No tax on overtime. You work hard, you put in those extra hours, you're willing to go the extra mile, you should keep that money and not give it to the government. I have a feeling no matter what, you will spend it better. No tax on Social Security. You literally paid into the system. You've been doing it for decades while they give away your money to people who've never paid into the system. You shouldn't have to pay taxes on those benefits, and you no longer will. The child tax credit permanently increased for 40 million American families, okay? That's a big one. And here's something that doesn't get enough attention. The Trump accounts, okay? This is a big one, guys, okay? Every American child born between 25 and 28, okay, 2025 to 2028, the federal government is putting $1,000 into an investment account for them. Each one of those kids, it goes into the S&P 500, like an index fund. It grows tax-free. And when that child turns 18, they have a nest egg to start their adult life. Okay. By the time they hit retirement age, I've seen numbers that they said that it could grow, obviously compounding interest and growth. That could be $600,000 for every child born between 2025 and 2028. Okay. That's incredible news. That's what Americans need. That's how to ensure prosperity so they also have the chance to live their American dream. That's how you build generational wealth for working families. Okay. Not handouts, investment into the future. That's money staying in the pockets of working families instead of funding left-wing programs and the nonsense that Doge hopefully sorted most of out, but I'm sure there's still plenty out there. Okay, you're not funding circumcision procedures in countries you've never heard of. You're not doing that anymore. That money can go into your kids' pockets. That's money for groceries, for Christmas presents, for college savings, for retirement. The Democrats want the government to have your money so they can decide how to spend it. My father wants you to keep your money and to decide for yourself. That's the fundamental difference, guys. Now, let's talk about the border because the numbers there are absolutely staggering. The Department of Homeland Security just announced more than 2.5 million illegal aliens have left the United States since January of 2025. And remember, my father didn't take over till the end of January 20th. Okay. That's like 10 months and change. Let me break that down for you. Over 605,000 have been deported, removed from this country. 1.9 million have self-deported. They got the message. They know this administration means business. They know that if they don't leave voluntarily, we will find them. We will arrest them, and they will never return again. Compare that to what we had under Biden. Under Biden, they were giving illegals free flights into the country. They were then flying them from foreign countries directly into American cities and then into other American cities if they came over a place of crossing. In the dark of the night, they did this without telling anyone. No records. You couldn't question it. I saw it dozens of times myself at airports around the country. Lines of people, no IDs, no nothing, just, seemed like a government ticket. We all saw it. We all knew it was happening. We were screaming it, and they had just stayed silent. Meanwhile, ICE is arresting over 1,000 illegal aliens a day. They're targeting the worst of the worst. MS-13 gang members, sex traffickers, drug dealers and traffickers, murderers, rapists, child predators. And the border itself? 7 straight months of zero releases. The lowest border crossings in decades. The wall is being built. The Remain in Mexico policy is back. The catch and release disaster is over. My father said he could secure the border without new legislation. The fake news said it was impossible. Even some DC Republicans said we needed comprehensive immigration reform. That's their code name for amnesty. My father proved them all wrong. All you need is a president who actually wants to secure the border, who actually cares about American sovereignty, who actually puts American citizens first. My father is sending a clear message, guys. The Monroe Doctrine is back. We will not tolerate hostile regimes in our backyard. We will not tolerate drug trafficking and terrorism being exported into our country. We won't export our American dream and our jobs to other nations because we're going to bring manufacturing back to America. We won't tolerate open borders in any way, shape, or form. It's all connected to righting the left's wrongs on immigration, on crime, on military readiness, and on disasters like DEI. Because something massive happened just this month that most of the media is totally ignoring, which is, again, why I always ask you guys to like, share, subscribe. Send this part out especially to anyone you know. The Department of Justice just issued a final rule eliminating disparate impact liability under Title VI. Okay. So what does that actually mean? Well, for decades, the radical left has used something called disparate impact. Okay. Disparate impact to basically say that if there's any statistical difference in outcomes between racial groups, any, it must be discrimination. It must be racism, even if there was zero intent to discriminate, even if the policy in question was completely neutral. It didn't matter. We've all seen it. We've all watched it. So if a company has a test for hiring employees, for example, that test is completely fair, completely job related, but different radical groups score differently. The company could be sued for discrimination. It's led to massive amounts of litigation, and it's fundamentally altered how companies hire and how they do business. You know, if two people were equal and one was even a slightly better, but they didn't check that box, they'd never get the job if someone was a checkbox candidate. It didn't matter if your policy was race neutral. It didn't matter if you had zero discriminatory intent. If the outcomes were different, you could be held liable. This was weaponized against businesses, against universities, against police departments, against anyone the left wanted to target. It was weaponized racism. Okay? It was weaponized racism. It was just reverse racism because it worked for the people they wanted to help and created victims who weren't actually victims. The people who end up being victims were oftentimes the most qualified people who just didn't check any boxes. And the Trump Department of Justice just ended it. Now, Title VI still prohibits intentional discrimination. If you actually discriminate against someone because of their race, that's still illegal, as it should be. It's just not going to be something that you get sued over for doing the right thing, for hiring the most qualified individual. That is gone. Fairness is back. But you can't be sued again. That's what's important about it. You can't be sued just because of legal disparity. You actually have to prove intent. Okay? This is massive for businesses. It's massive for meritocracy. It's massive for the fundamental principle that people should be judged as individuals, not as members of racial groups. Okay? This connects directly to my father's executive orders from April ending disparate income impact enforcement across the entire federal government. We're returning to the original meaning of civil rights law, which was about treating people equally, regardless of race, regardless of sex, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. It's not about engineering equal outcomes, which is what's been going on for far too long. But the left used things like disparate impact and DEI to overhaul America's workforce and discriminate against white men in particular. Have you ever noticed that they were never worried about civil rights violations if it was going, let's say, the other direction? Do you ever think that was not a concern? Everyone knew that if you were at certain places, especially like if you were the white guy going up against even someone less qualified than you had no chance. There's actually a post on X that I want to read to you. Elon commented on it. I commented on it. Elon said it was 100% true because it lays out all of the downstream effects of the DEI madness we've been experiencing for 20 years. It's generational. It's been going on for decades. It's destroyed an entire class of people for decades. And now it's crippled society on so many different fronts. So the tweet is from Interintellectual, kind of a big one, but I want to read the whole thing, and it's rather long, but I think it's important we talk about it because it's such a big issue. And it says, and I quote, "White men were systematically excluded from careers during their peak marriage years. But that's just first order effects. Second order, marriage market collapsed. Women date across and up. Men without careers become invisible to the women who would have married them, and they disappear. The eligible bachelor pool shrinks. Third order, fertility crisis. Fewer marriages, fewer children. But it's worse than just men not marrying or having families. The women who won the DEI lottery got careers instead of families. They delayed fertility until it was too late. DEI attacked family formation from both sides, excluded men from provider roles, and diverted women from their fertility window. Everyone lost. Fourth order, psychological. Okay. Young men couldn't even name what was happening to them. Although, little sidebar, we were all talking about it, we all saw it, but it didn't matter. You couldn't do anything about it. You were helpless. Back to the quote. The same institutions that excluded them told them that they were privileged, that they were complaining was proofus. So they internalized failure as personal inadequacy rather than systemic rigging. The fifth order, institutional trust gone. Once you know positions are filled by demographics rather than competence, every credential becomes suspect. Sixth order, reality became unspeakable. Noticing any of this was a fireable offense. Pointing out the obvious got you called a bigot. You got deplatformed or fired. And the worst part is the DEI was just the economic arm. The same people in institutions push the complete package. Toxic masculinity. And a lot of this seemed to start happening on a grand scale in 2014. And here's a look at the data and the numbers, which are staggering. Here's just a few examples. White men dropped from 48% of entry-level TV writers in 2011 to just 11.9% by 2024. 48 to 11.9%, okay, in 13 years. In academia, they fell from 39% of humanities tenured track hires at Harvard in 2014 to 18% in 2023. At UC Irvine, 64 tenure track professors were hired in humanities and social sciences since 2020. 64. Only 3 of them were white men. At Amazon, mid-level managers fell from 55.8% white male in 2014 to 33.8% in 2024. At Google, white men went from nearly half of the workforce to under a third. Okay. That's insane, guys. So big picture, there's a ton of progress being made. We still have to figure out how to right those wrongs, how to turn back a generation that's been destroyed, subdued, suppressed for too long. And we're going to get to that. We're working hard at it, but it's hard to undo decades of madness. My father talked about this in his address last night, and I think it's important for everyone to understand what's on the horizon. Next year, 2026, is going to be the year of the boom. Okay, the tax cuts from the one big beautiful bill are going to hit people's wallets. When you do your taxes this spring, you're going to see the biggest refund you've ever gotten. That's money back in your pocket where it belongs. The new manufacturing jobs from all these investment commitments are going to start coming in and they're coming online. Real jobs, good paying American jobs. Drug costs are going to start coming down significantly with the most favored nation pricing deals that my father's negotiated and his administration has worked so tirelessly on. Okay. No more Europe gets the drug for 2 cents while Americans pay $1,000 for the same thing. That's done. Housing reform is coming. My father teased some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. Interest rates are going to come down. My father's made it clear that the next Fed chair is going to work with this administration, not against it as a politically weaponized cudgel against common sense and your ability to afford housing. And the 250th anniversary of American independence, we're going to show the world an America that is the envy of the entire globe. The World Cup is coming. Billions of people are going to see American strength, American prosperity, and American greatness. That's what we're working towards. That's the vision. While the Democrats offer nothing but doom and gloom, nothing but division, nothing but attacks on success and common sense, we're offering opportunity. We're offering growth. We're offering the American dream. That's the choice in 2026. That's the choice for America's future. Promises made, promises kept. That's just a slogan anymore, guys. That's the reality of this administration. Okay? So keep all of that in mind, guys. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in to yet another episode of Triggered. Remember to like, to share, to subscribe, okay? Some of those things no one's even going to talk about. You and I both know it. It almost took the teasing, at least the media, thinking it was going to be an invasion of another country to get them to tune in and make these facts heard. But that's why you need to share it, because they're not going to be talking about it today, tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. They're going to hide it like they did everything else. So get it out there, like, share, subscribe, send it to your friends. Check out our incredible sponsors down below, people who make this show possible, people who have the guts to support this kind of programming, okay? You can see the video links down there in the description. Check them out. They have the guts to support this kind of programming. Support those who share your values. So guys, stay engaged, stay informed, and stay a little triggered. And I'll see you very soon.